Oh my God. That just fires me up. Oh, it gets me so fired up when I watch that. That is so awesome. I cannot wait to be there. All right. So I will I think Tor, we kind of came to the conclusion that Trista was gonna be our MC here, right?
Yeah, because if not, we're going to stay here for an hour and a half.
I got you, boys.
I mean, earlier today, we had a meeting about a lot of stuff. Trista steps in and says, "Guys, you've been on the call for like 4 hours." And we were done in half an hour after that. So,
What
It
I'm
is
here for.
true. That is a true statement. That is not a fib. That is
I wish it wasn't true, but it is.
awesome. Okay, so do you want to kick us off? You want to talk about the Rockman Live? You want to kick it off, Trista?
No, thank you.
Okay, so what we have in store for you today is we're going to talk about the race itself. We're going to talk about logistics, some of the stuff you've seen over email, some of it you've seen on the Instagram stories, Facebook stories, so forth and so on. But our goal here today is to specifically talk about the race itself and answer any questions that you have. So it looks like, looking at my dashboard here, it looks like we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. It looks like Instagram's not streaming for some reason. I'll see if I can fix that once we start talking a little bit. So by all means, for those of you that are attending, ask your questions in chat. Depending on what platform you're on, just basically ask those questions in chat, and then we'll see if we can get those answers. In the meantime, we're going to throw a lot of information at you over the next hour. It'll be pretty fast paced. We're not going to go into the race course in depth. Go study the maps. Okay. We in our meeting this morning, we updated some of the cutoffs. We'll talk about those. I haven't had an opportunity to update the maps with the cutoffs, so bear with me. That'll be done later this afternoon or this evening. So expect those new cutoffs on the maps tomorrow. But let's talk about that, because I think that's been a lot of questions that we've had so far, is the cutoffs and what that means. And
I can say what that means. It's very simple. If you don't make it to the designated time and point within that time, we cut you out of the race.
right. Yep.
Yeah, it is it and the reason why we have those cutoffs, people have been asking that. There are multiple reasons for that. Is to give somewhat predictability for everybody involved,
Mm-hmm.
but also it's put in place because 2 years back we had very harsh conditions, and so it's a judgment call. Some of this, right? But we'll get to that when we get cross that bridge. But we want everybody to race safe, happy, but also that you have to put in a little bit effort. I've done a
Mm-hmm.
couple of races over the last couple of weeks, and I have taken advantage of the cutoff to the fullest extent. But I also know if there had been a little bit need to push, I would have been able to push as well. So it's kind of finding that balance.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So let's take a look at what those cutoffs are. How shall we? See if
Yeah,
I
we
can.
can do that.
Let's do the screen share here. I'm going to share this window over here. Okay, so if you go to the website, and you'll hear us say this many times, is like if someone asks us a question, go to the website. Somebody have another question, go to the website. So there's a lot of information up here. We tried to put it as succinct as possible, but I'll talk about it from the perspective of the Rockman course itself, specifically under the Rockman logistics. And if I scroll down, we'll talk about these cutoffs right. Oops. Here.
Not
Where are they?
not logistics, but
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Race.
yep, you're right. Yep. Under the race info.
race rule or info. It's
Oh,
in
race rules. Okay, got it. Sorry. I know that
race.
we've made a lot of changes to the website, so I have to keep going back and forth to them. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down on the race rules, and we'll go into the timing, which has our race cutoffs. Again, this has not been updated on the maps as of yet. but we'll talk about them, and then I'll pull up the map real quickly and show you where these cutoffs are, and then we'll update the maps a little bit later on this evening.
We this evening, after a 4 hour long discussion, we have negotiated and talked back and forth. We have now implemented 3 cutoffs. The first one is Bakken Kai, which is, or Bakken Pier, as it's called in English, where you jump into the water before you get to Brattli. So we have a cutoff at Bakken and Brattli, which we will show, and those are respectively at 1 o'clock and 1:15.
Right.
What we experienced 2 years back is that we had a slight delay in start. So we have catered for that now. So what we have said, we have added 15 minutes to Brattli, but we will start on time this year. So you will have plenty of time to make it. But you need to be moving forward. That's important, and that's the message we need to get across.
Absolutely. The 2 cutoffs that we have at Bakken and Brattli, for those of you that have been looking at the maps and been studying the maps and looking at the cutoffs previously, we didn't have a cutoff at Bakken. We only had the one at Brattli. So the reason that we implemented one at Bakken is since the cutoff at Brattli is at 1:15, there's no way in hell, unless you are a super, super, super fast swimmer, that you're going to swim that 1,600 meters by getting in at Bakken at 1 p.m. So rather than put you in the water and have you get very, very cold and not make the cutoff, we'll just cut you off at the Bakken Pier. So make sure you're at that Bakken Pier before 1 p.m. So that you can make that swim. And then, of course, at Brattli, if you get cut off at Brattli at 1:15, your hiking and climbing day isn't over. What will happen is that you'll get transported to what we say here is the Resna Pier, which is basically the pier just below base camp. So you still have to hike up out of the fjord from that pier up to base camp.
Yeah.
Still a beautiful hike, so you'll still get to experience that.
If I may, Marcus,
Go ahead.
one of the reasons why we also are implementing the Bakken Pier Kai cutoff is the water temperature in the fjord is expected to be colder than last year and the previous years. And we know that this swim has also been one of the quite coldest one on the day. And this is also to ensure that we don't have too many people sitting in Brattli waiting for the shuttle getting cold, hypothermic, etc. We can say right now, right today, the water temperature is 13 degrees at this area. Normally we have been to 14 to 15. So that's also a reason that we need to share.
And that's about 55 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
30.
There are some measure points in the fjord, which is far furthest into the fjord at Lysebotn, which is the far end of the fjord. That shows 12 degrees. And based on our experience, it's about 1 degrees warmer going towards Fløli and Brattli compared to the far end of the fjord.
Right.
So 13 degrees is my best guess as of today, what we will have at this swim. Same at the fjord crossing.
And I'll talk about that swim when I pull up the map too, and one of the reasons why we want to make sure that you guys are safe there. All right. So, any other comments about the Bakken Pier, Brattli Pier cutoffs?
We just had one question in the chat about the cutoff times, how they compare to the previous years. So last year isn't applicable because it was a completely different course. But the last time we ran this course in this direction, they are pretty comparable to the previous year's cutoffs. I think it is about 15 minutes more aggressive, but they're pretty comparable.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. I thought I threw that one up there, but okay, that works. Thank you, Trista. So let's talk about the Pulpit Rock Junction pier. It's had many names. We've called it the intersection. I think I've referred to it in some of our coaching calls as the crossroads, but it's basically where Long Course comes up from the fjord, and then there's a three-way intersection where you'll go out to Pulpit and back. And then when you get back to that intersection, you'll head out to what is a new section of the course that no one has experienced from a racing perspective. That cutoff is 5 p.m. At that intersection. And I think it's better to explain that by pulling up the map. So I'll pull up the map in a second. But it is that intersection after completing the turnaround at Pulpit. For short course and the trail run, so from both short course and trail run, it's at that same time when you come off of Pulpit and you come to that intersection. So it is at the same exact time. So let me pull up the race course. And again, we'll look at it from the long course perspective first. And if I show that map, there we go.
While you bring that up, something to note, the short course, when we look at the swim run race course, it is essentially the same as the trail run, just without the swims. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at the maps.
Yeah. From pulpit on, all three courses are predominantly both swim run courses are the same, and then the trail run also kind of follows that same path. But before I talk about the crossroads or the intersection, let's come back to this Bach and Kai. So Bach and Kai is, if I zoom out, I get chastised a little bit for zooming in too quick. So if you look at the course, when we start over here at Florley, we do the Florley loop across the fjord, and then you come down the road run across the seaside sprint. When you get to Bakken, that's your last fjord swim or swim number 6. So rather than put in this water when we know you're not going to make this cutoff here at 1:15, we will stop you here at 1 p.m. Your cutoff at this intersection or at this pier is at 1:15. If you make it to either of these piers after that cutoff, we'll stop you there, and then we will transport you via boat all the way down here to Resnakai, which is, here's the Pulpit rock. So if we go on a little bit further, here's Resnakai, and if I zoom in, you'll see that there's a pier here and there's a trail that goes up. And so we'll escort you up all the way up to base camp. So that's going to be how you're going to get out of the fjord. So your day's not over. You're still going to get to see some beautiful, beautiful scenery. But let's go back to the crossroads or the intersection that we're talking about here at Pulpit. So for long coursers, as you come up from Brotley, you'll come up to this intersection. You'll reach this intersection. You'll go out to Pulpit Rock. Here's where you'll meet up with the short coursers and or trail run athletes, and all three courses will follow this path back to this intersection. When you get to this intersection after going to Pulpit, your cutoff is, what's the cutoff time? 1700?
Yeah.
5 p.m. 5 p.m. So if you're coming up to this intersection and you're getting close to 5 p.m., let's say you're at that 4:15 or 4:30, you better haul butt all the way out here and back to Pulpit, because if you make it to this intersection after 5 p.m., you will not get to continue the race. So you will not be able or allowed to continue this course and down and then swim. Instead, what will happen is you'll take the normal tourist pass from Pulpit all the way down and then along here to base camp. You will not be allowed to proceed on the course at any form or fashion. That also includes that if we cut you off here at 5 p.m., you cannot go down this tourist path and then hop back on the course and finish up this last piece in the swim. That's not allowed. The course is closed at that point. Okay. So you'll have to just follow the tourist path and all the tourist signs back to base camp. Now, it's important for you to note that if you come up from Brotley and you're really going slow and you get to Brotley here at 5 p.m., which is at course cutoff time, which is the course is closed, we're not going to allow you to go on to Pulpit. Again, you'll still have to continue down the path to base camp. So,
but Marcus, if I get there at 4:59, I can still go out to Pulpit and come back.
Yep. Knowing that you're going to have an issue reaching. But your day is over. Yeah. It should not be a challenge for most of the teams, but that just goes to show you. And I really want you guys to understand that once you get out out of the fjord and you start doing this climb up, it's a race. You need to be moving fast. You need to be this swim number 7. You need to have your transitions tight so you don't spend a whole lot of time transitioning, because you do have cutoffs that you still have to meet. And that 5 p.m. cutoff is from previous years is still a little bit more aggressive than it was in previous years. So just make sure that you're moving and you're constantly on the go. Okay.
I think it's 15 minutes quicker this year
Yep.
compared to last year. Originally, it was 5:15, but we extended it because of a late start.
Right.
This year, we are putting it up a little bit. Should be more than time to make it if you hike with purpose and you swim like you normally do. So,
Right.
and by the way, Marcus, I put on the bib for the solo. If you wonder,
Say again. Oh,
Looking great.
let
Look
me
at
go.
that. Race bib.
Hold on. I got to go back to the
Good
regular
Lord.
screen. Here you go. There you go. All
Oh.
right.
Keep my belly in now.
Nice.
And I also got this.
Yes, we should talk about this as well. All right. So from a course marking perspective, the bulk of the course is going to be, you're going to be following the red tees. Okay. So the red tees are the tourist trail markings that are painted on the rocks and along the course and signage. So you're going to follow the red tees. A good example is if I go back, I'll come back to you in the second tour. So a good example is if I go back to my screen share here. If I was to show you from coming out of Brotley as an example. So when you come out of Brotley, when you start up this path, there's going to be some green or some red tees that you're going to be following. There are going to be points where, actually, you know what a better example is? Let's say coming into Bakken. So all along the seaside sprint for coming from Song of Sand to Bakken, you're following the red tees. They're painted on the rocks. You just follow the tees. When you come to an intersection such as this, where the red tees take 2 different paths. So there's red tees that go up this trail, and there's red tees that come down this trail. At an important intersection like this, we're going to have red and yellow tape. And I'll come back to you, Tor. So we're going to have this red and yellow tape that Tor is showing you. The red and yellow tape, it supersedes, it takes the higher precedence over the red tees. That's the only place that you're going to find this red and yellow tape, is where we need you to deviate from those red tees. Follow the red tees, follow the red tees, follow the red tees. I'll pull up a picture of one in a second. Now, that is true for both short course and long course. Follow the red tees unless you see red and yellow tape. When you see red and yellow tape, follow the tape. And then you'll pick tees back up again. For our trail runners, we obviously don't want you going into the water. So at intersections where the short course swim run goes towards the water for a swim, we're going to have blue and white tape, like what Tor has showing, for you to follow to bypass the swim. Okay, so you follow the blue and white tape. Only trail runners follow the blue and white tape. Let me say that again. Only trail runners follow the blue and white tape. Swim runners, if you follow the blue and white tape, you're cheating. You're skipping swims. Okay, so swim runners only follow red and yellow. Anytime that you see blue and white, trail runners, you follow that blue and white, and then you'll pick back up either the red and yellow tape or the red tees. Okay, so the blue and white is just to bypass the swims for the trail runners. Just want to make sure I say that several times so that everybody gets that. Okay. All right. What's next on the agenda?
Do you want to talk about energy stations and maybe touch on a little bit about what is going to be there?
What is going to be?
That was a question that came up in the chat.
If I may, we will do the sourcing of everything Monday, Tuesday next week. So at the race, at the live cast that we are hosting next week, we will be more detail exactly what's at each site. Typically, the most important thing to say, will not provide any gels. We will have stuff that is basically okay for your stomach to eat. We have had buns, bananas, potato cakes with sugar and cinnamon, butter in those. Those are great, by the way. We have candy, the yellow banana candy, typically. Swedish fish, those red ones. So it's different ones, right? But all in all, we will post that schedule on the webpage next week when we have updated and it's in detail. But the most important thing to know, we do not provide any gels. If you need gels on the day of the race, you need to carry that yourself from A to B. Doesn't that roughly sum it up? As such, there will be key aid stations at Flöli after you have done with the first loop. It will be at Songesand. It will be at the farmer's land, which is when you are done with before you do the Sunside Hill running. There we will more than likely have Norwegian waffles. And then we'll have aid stations at Bakken and Brattli. Brattli will be key because after swim, if it's very cold, there you will get some hot soup type of thing, broth or whatever you call that, Trista, right?
Yeah, warm broth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's important to know is that because of the logistics of this course, it's to some of the places impossible for us to bring water into the location. But the water is so pure in Norway that you can drink it from the creek, Rockman style. And for some people, that is quite unusual. That's actually doable. But on this course, as long as you have water moving, like what would that be? What do you call that in English?
Stream. Yeah.
Stream. You can drink from it on all places up to the pulpit. But from the pulpit, we do not recommend because that's so populated with tourists doing whatever thing in the bush and so forth. So you don't want that at that end. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So
And there was a question on the chat about where the energy stations are. I know Thor just listed them. Oh, Marcus, were you going to get there? Sorry.
No. So yeah, good call. So where are those intersections? Where are the aid stations? I know we listed it out in verbally, but let's show it on the map again. Again, we're not gonna go over the entire course, and we will update when we update the maps with the cutoffs. We will also update where the aid stations are. But if I go back to the long course and zoom out, you're going to have an aid station here. It's marked as energy at the Florley Pier. So as soon as you get out of the water, you'll have an option of grabbing something. But in my opinion, it's probably a little too soon in the race.
We don't have it in the morning.
Oh, we don't have it in the morning. Okay, so only after the race has started. So coming down from the top of Florley before the big swim, we'll have it. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So there's an energy station there. There's going to be some waffles on course, but I'm not even going to say where they're going to be. We'll wait and see if we're going to be able to do it or not. So that's up in the air.
It'll be a waffle surprise.
It'll be a waffle surprise. There's an energy station at Songesand. This is after you come down the paved section. It's the only paved section of the course for the long course, and before you hit the seaside sprint. This is going to be a full kind of a Florley, and this aid station is going to be kind of a full gamut of stuff. Is that right, Tor?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And then there will be some minimal stuff at both the Bakken and Brattli piers.
No, Brattli will be quite big.
Okay.
Because we don't want people to eat a lot before they swim.
Okay.
Because it's better to have it after the swim. So we have it, Flöli, Songesand, Brattli, Junction. That's pretty much the four main ones. And then whenever we have a marshal, there will be some small things for you to stock up with if you really go low. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, I recommend taking racing with a soft flask that you can fill up when you do come across those streams or anything, just so that you can replenish your water source and just have something with you at all times. Don't rely on having water at all the aid stations because they might not be there. So
Right.
carry a flask or a soft cup or something.
Yep. Then if we fast forward to the intersection, we're going to have some limited aid at the intersection, right?
No liquid. No liquid.
No liquid. So one thing that I would suggest as a racer that's done this several times, um, after you get out of swim 7 and you start this run up, the first stream you come to on your run up, it's probably a good idea to grab some water.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wait until I'm close to this intersection because, again, as Tor mentions, there's 300,000 people that come through this to Pulpit Rock every year, and they step off into bushes and they defecate and they urinate, and I wouldn't trust any water that's anywhere close to this tourist path. So, as an example, you've got a couple of streams here that you're going to cross. If you zoom in on the map, you'll see there's numerous streams that you're going to cross as you make your way up. I would say start grabbing water as soon as you can when you get out of swim 7 and refill your flask. So at the intersection, there's going to be some aid. We've discussed, I don't know if it's firm or not, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that we might have some limited aid at the exit of the Tropovatnet swim.
Yeah.
So
that's right, Marcus. If we have a volunteer that's able to get out there with the supplies, we plan to have someone posted there after the swim.
Right. So for short course, you'll have this intersection. Hopefully, we'll be able to get a volunteer that can take some things out to the end of the Tropovatnet swim, and that's also 2 aid stations that you can hit from a trail run perspective. If I scoot over to the short course, you'll see that the short course will come up and around. This aid station at the intersection is going to be your first aid and probably your only guaranteed aid station. Again, we're going to try and have something at Tropovatnet if we can. Okay.
If we have something out there, that will be available for long, short, and the trail run.
Right.
Yes.
We'll cover all 3 races.
Right. So try to be as self-sufficient as you can. All of my athletes I coach, I'm suggesting that they take whatever nutrition that is necessary, keyword necessary, for them to finish the race and with a good time, and then use the aid stations as an area where you can get something a little bit different, maybe something that'll give you a little bit of a pick-me-up, a little bit of sugar. But I am suggesting to all my athletes that they try to be as self-sufficient when it comes to nutrition as possible.
Yep.
Okay. All right. What else is on our agenda?
We did get a question in the chat about the water conditions and the fjord crossing. How? Yep. There you go.
Yep. I'm just picking up on your cues. So how rough can the water get if there's a strong current, or is there a strong current? So there's 2 questions there. I think if you go back and look at the 2023 video, right off the bat at the very beginning of the video, I think it starts off with the fjord crossing from Florley over to the farmer's land, and you can see kind of how rough it gets. It's not open sea rough, but it's still a mile across. So winds can definitely have an effect and create chop and create waves and whatnot. And then from a current perspective, there's not much of a current. There is a current depending on the tidal flow, but it's not as strong as what you would see, say, in Casco Bay or maybe in Catalina or something like that.
Right,
So
some ocean swimming. You're right, but Marcus, the year in 2023, we did have a very strong current as you got closer to shore, and it pulled people way off far to the left. So keep an eye on the swimmers in front of you. If you see them going way far left, then that's probably your first indicator that there could be somewhat of a current. But typically, I think, Thor, typically you said there's usually not, and it can be nice flat water.
Most of the years we have hosted this event, in the morning until 10, 11 o'clock, it has been quite okay, the current-wise. But if you have strong winds, then you will get current in the fjord because of the way the fjord is shaped. But if you don't have winds, the current normally comes around 1 o'clock at night in the evening when the tide changes. But yeah, so that should be fine for most people. If we have a lot of wind, then that will be a tough swim. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
And while we're talking about fjord and water conditions, I just do want to point out that when you're boarding the ferry or walking around town, you will see jellyfish in the harbor there. They are more prevalent in the city than they are in the fjord when you cross it, but you could come across jellyfish in the fjord swims, so just bear that in mind. I think Thor's favorite thing to say is you'll forget about the sting of the jellies once you start climbing. So.
Yeah.
But no, they are there. Yeah.
Yeah. Another question we got is the 13 degrees. We mentioned at 13 degrees in the fjord. How about the lakes at in altitude? I think here's where it's typically colder in the lakes that are up higher. So, for example, last year when Tristan and I measured, I think the fjord was around that 13, 14 degrees. But when we got up into the lakes, I think it was much colder. So I'm thinking in Fahrenheit. So the fjord was like 55, 56 degrees. But when we got up into the upper areas, it's like 51, 52 degrees. So a little bit colder at the elevation. But let me speak to that for a second. Let me pull up the map again because I think that this is important to kind of understand. So I think the question comes from a concern of where am I going to be the coldest? So these lakes at the top of the fjord are I think colder because they're higher elevation plus it's snow melt, and they can be colder, but these are very short swims. So they're 3, 4, 500 meters in length, so you can get through them pretty quick. I think that this swim here, honestly, from Bakken to Brotli, in my opinion, is the coldest, and that's for two different reasons. One, as you're swimming towards the Brotli Pier, there are all these waterfalls that dump into the fjord, and so they're dumping cold water into the fjord. So as you approach the Brotli Pier, the water tends to get colder and colder as you approach that pier, and from a time perspective. So you're in the water for a long period of time. So time exposure is going to make you feel colder. Those short swims at the top are really short, so your time exposure is less. These longer swims in the fjord is more time exposure. But then when you on top of that, the fact that you're swimming towards these waterfalls here, these 5 waterfalls, it tends to make it a little bit colder at the end of the swim. So that's the one that feels the coldest to me when I'm racing. One other thing
You can
I
add
think,
something, Marcus.
just a second, let me go ahead. I'm sorry, Tor, go ahead.
The thing is, remember, most of the water that comes into the fjord is coming from 800 to 1100 height meters. And the day-night temperature at these altitudes will have a big impact on the water temperature at the lakes, of course, but also at the bottom of the fjord. If we go back to the sunny year where we had 3 weeks of warm weather in Norway leading into the race, we were more concerned about people getting too hot at the lakes. But in the normal conditions, the way we have now leading into the race, if you look at the Kjærag, which is at 1,000 height meters, which is a good reference point, we are looking at night temperature air-wise down to 3 to 5 degrees, day temperature around 6 to 8 days leading into it. So expect the lakes at the southern part to be very cold, but they're not long, like you say. You might get down to even below 10 degrees on those swims. And remember, when Rockman made us make this race so early in the summer, was because he wanted to make it harder and colder. Just remember that when you race, it's going to be bloody cold.
Yep.
We have never hosted this race that early in the summer before, but on the other hand, there has been virtually zero snow in the mountains. So it's basically the night temperature, day temperature at 1,000 height meter that will determine the water temperature in the lakes.
Yep.
Now back to you, Marcus.
Awesome.
Real quick, if I could just say, I would recommend as you finish that pavement run and you're coming down towards the Songason aid station, take a gel if you have it. Get your body nice and warm. If you're eating something, that'll help with that cold swim. So save a gel maybe for just before that swim to help you keep warm.
Yeah.
Marcus, were you going to talk about the lakes up at the top?
Yep. So another announcement is swim number 4. So this swim right here, we've already made the decision that it's going to be canceled. So a lot of that has to do with the weather. A lot of that has to do with the temperature. We're expecting rain. Number of volunteers that we've gotten, those types of things. So from a safety perspective, we're scratching swim number 4. So when you come out of swim number 3 and you start your run, your next swim isn't going to be until the fjord. So when you come out of swim 3, go ahead and cab down, do whatever it is that you need to do to get ready for your run. Because now what you're going to do is you're going to run straight up this road and run right past that swim and continue down this road all the way back down to the fjord. So you only have 2 swims at the top. So after your second swim at the top, swim number 3, go ahead and get ready for a run all the way back to the fjord.
Yeah. And the water temperature is also a main reason here, because we expect it to be cold.
Yeah.
When I did the race in 2017, that first swim after the stairs, that was a brain freeze. And I expect the same thing this year.
Yeah. Yep. For those of you that are familiar with the Utsala Whistler race, last year when Beak and I got out of that first swim, we made the comment of, man, that's Nita cold. And Nita is a name of probably, I think, the coldest swim at Whistler. And it was when we got out of that swim, there was a tightness to your jaw and a little bit of drooling on your mouth because it was a very, very cold swim last year. So expect that, like Tor's saying, expect that to be kind of a bone chilling swim at the top, but it's short. So get it over with quick. All right. Any other topics we need to cover?
We had one about parking at base camp, because there are locals driving. And Sigve, you had that question. Any free parking for the participants? Unfortunately not. We are under the same situation like everybody else going to the pulpit area. So there are no free parking. But if there's any change in that, we will come back to that with the race update leading into the days next week. We're having a meeting with base camp tomorrow. But we don't anticipate that happening because it's part of the fundraising for the tourist trail, as you all know.
Yeah.
We also had some questions regarding getting off the pulpit, getting there logistically. We recommend using the tourist bus option, which leaves quite throughout the day. Last bus leaving the mountain is 9:30. So if you intend to stay back in town, Stavanger, make sure you catch that bus. So you need to race with that in mind.
I'm going to make a note. Maybe we should put a link to the bus schedule under logistics.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got that.
Any other questions that we haven't covered now?
Here's one about the trail run.
We have one. Yeah, we also have. We can do this one.
So it says, is the 20K trail run the same as the short swim run, only we run around the lakes instead of crossing it? Yes. So I think that the one place that I think that I could, let me pull up the short course map real quick. Bear with me. And I'll share it out because I think
short answer is yes.
Yeah. Short answer is yes. Yes.
There is one lake that the runners will run around, like the opposite direction, not like the swimmers will go through, but for the most part, yes.
So here is the short course swim run. And I think that the where I was like, there's a little bit of a difference in that if you follow this short course swim run, it comes into Restvatnet. There's a swim there, which the trail runners, if you look just to the left of where the cursor is, there's a trail that you're going to run on as the trail runners. And then once you get over to this section right here, oops, I'm going to move that out of my way. There we go. You get to the section right here where the swim runners take a left to go across this island in the Restvatnet. the trail runners will continue along this path and pick up this intersection and then start climbing. The swim runners have to swim across the island and come up this way and then continue up. But you're going to so what I'm looking for, you'll come back together right here at this intersection. So with that said, that's the only place that it's a little weird. Every other run is you're just going to be basically bypassing the swim and continuing on. So you're going to see, from a trail runner perspective, you're going to kind of go away from the swimmers as they go to swim, then you're going to come back together with them. But I think with the timing that we have of the starts of the race, which has also been updated on the website, I think with the timing of the start of the race, that for the most part, the trail runners are going to be out in front of the swim runners. So it shouldn't be too confusing.
And we hope to have a marshal right there where Marcus was talking about where the course is split. But this is where it's important to make sure the trail runners are following that blue and white tape and the swim runners are following the red and yellow.
Yep.
We hope to have someone there, but just that it's important to follow your markings.
Right. I think the plan is Marcus is going to be there himself. Isn't that the plan?
That's the plan.
Yeah, I'm gonna be standing at this intersection when you guys get to this intersection right here, and then I'll move over here. Yeah. I'll high five you when you go by.
We got a question about GPX file.
GPX file. Are we going to release the GPX file? Boy, we talked about this in our meeting. I have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings on it.
We're not going to release the GPX file.
We are not going to release the GPX file, and here's why. In a previous race, matter of fact, when we did closest to this course 2 years ago, we released the GPX file, and people were following their watches and not looking at the course markings. And we had several people miss an intersection because they were following the GPX file versus looking at the course markings. Because we have race directors will sometimes have to make last minute changes to the course. So if we give you a GPX file on Wednesday, and then on race day, we have to change the course, and you're blindly watching your watch, you can right through an intersection. And I know it seems impossible to do, but we had numerous racers blow right through an intersection because they were looking at their watch instead of looking at the course marking. So we made a decision of follow the course markings. If you want to make your own GPX file, that's up to you. You can make your own GPX file, but we're not going to release a GPX file and then have people go off course because we had to make last minute course marking changes. So follow the course markings.
We have a couple questions. I'm just going to go down. Someone asked to recommend taking your phone. No, we don't. It's probably not needed. You can if you want to, but it's not expected. We did say that was allowed last year because it was a different course, but no, it's not necessary. Are there any flags on the swim exits in the fjord? Yes, there will be big orange inflatables. Yeah. For you to sight on for the exits in the fjord. Is there dinner at base camp after the race? Yes, starting about 3 o'clock. Yes.
Yes. Read the webpage. It says all there. But yes, there is food.
Read the webpage. 3 o'clock on, we'll have a meal at base camp, which is included if you're a racer. Asking for a friend, jumping off the ferry is the only way. This is harder. This is colder. You can do it. It's not that high of a drop. I don't know, like 4 meters. I don't know how high it is.
No, it's 1.5 meters. It's
okay.
What's the question? I'm sorry, I missed that one.
Or
it's
2
not.
meters.
It's not far. No, it's not a very big jump. That is the safest way to get everyone off the boat. So that's the way we do it.
Yep.
There was a question from Olaf. Course markings for the swim. For example, in the long fjord swims, how do we make sure we're on the course? Are we going to have the orange flotation buoys?
We will have the yellow buoy, yeah. The big yellow buoy.
So we'll have some sighting buoys in the water that you can look towards, and then the bright buoys on land for exit.
Yeah.
And we'll go over all of that again in the pre-race briefing.
Yeah.
We'll show you what we plan to put on the course or what we have put on the course, and we'll make sure everyone's aware of that.
But we're not going to put like a buoy every 50 meters across the fjord.
There'll be one, if that. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll see one at the exit, and that's what you should shoot for.
And
Ben also
honestly,
added.
the fjord.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, Thor. No, so honestly, on the fjord crossing, you just swim across it, straight across. It'll be hard to see the exit until you get closer to it, anyways. But you'll know you're going in the right direction. We'll have safety boats out there for you.
Right. And for the fjord swim from Bakken to Bratley, you won't be able to see the exit because it's around a bend. Just hug the shoreline
Yeah.
until you see the exit.
There was a question about tourists on the trail. Absolutely. This is an open trail, all parts of the course. Please anticipate there being tourists. Please be polite, be courteous to them, yield to them. There could be dogs, small children. Be aware that they're there. You will be easily identified. You'll be wearing your swimwear gear and your bib. They'll know that you're with the race. So please, let's make a good name for Swimrun and our race and share the trails with them.
Yeah. At the same time, in 7 o'clock in the morning on the stairs, I don't see too many tourists, but you'll be in a big pack or group where people just say keep right, and then you move out of the way. Nobody or very few people actually are running in the stairs. But if you intend to race hard, you should invest in that first swim to be quite up the pack, because we anticipate 120 people on the ferry, or about 130. So as they jump off the ferry, that will be, yeah.
It's one reason that we can pray for terrible weather. In 2023, there was nobody on pulpit when we got there. We had it all to ourselves. So if the weather's bad, there'll be less tourists out there in both places. But
Yep.
um,
Is tethering
Actually-
mandatory?
No.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trista.
there was just a question about in the lakes with the. I think it was also in the lakes, meaning the
Tourists?
the buoys. So yeah, the exits will be marked by orange buoys.
Yeah. The two exits that's probably the toughest to see is going to be the two fjord swims, and so there'll be bigger buoys there. But at the exit of each swim, there will be an bright orange swim buoy that you'll see.
It will be at the fjord crossing. If we have time, we will move that buoy to Bratteli, but probably not for the first teams. But that's easy to catch up as you get along when you swim. We will come back to all the other logistics of where to pick up your gear, where the ferry leaves, and all of that in the race briefing shortly. And then Chris also got a question: if there's no tethering, how close do we need to be? Again, read the manual, read the rules. Read the rules, and the rule says you need to be within 10 meters of each other. You need to stay together. On land, you need to be able to communicate with each other. If there's heavy wind, you need to stay closer. If it's no wind, you can probably scream 20 meters ahead. Yes.
Right. But don't haul off and leave your teammate in the dust where you can't see them and expect that you're going to have to sit there and wait for them when they get out of the water. Like, stay together. It's a team sport. So we don't want you, the real fast swimmer, swimming across and sitting on the shore while you wait for your partner. If something happens to your partner in that swim, you need to be there to help. So stay together. Tethering is not mandatory, but you need to stay together. And that's something I feel very strongly about. And if I witness it, there could be a DQ.
And we'll update the website, but it's not required that you do tether, but a tether should be required. If weather conditions get bad, we might ask for you to tether. So just keep that in mind.
Yep.
But no, it's not mandatory unless we ask you to.
Right. Amy asks, is there mandatory safety buoy, one per team on the fjord crossing?
Yes.
Yep. That's always, we definitely want to do that. So for those of you that haven't done
sorry. That's provided by the race. We'll give that to you just for the crossing, and we'll take it back from you once you finish the swim.
Yep.
Good question, Amy.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, for those of you who haven't done it, we're not going to expect you to carry that buoy the entire race. It's just going to be given to you at that crossing. Let's see, who else do we have?
There was I think, did you already touch that, the location of the ferry? Did you already say that we'll look
Yeah,
at that?
we will get back to that. It will
Yeah,
be updated
yeah.
on the web page. Web page
Web
is the
page.
place where you get the information, and we will start putting dates on when we update it, when we update each stuff as we get closer. So we will put the time on when it was last updated. So we encourage you over the week that comes. If you have questions, go there. If that's not meets your requirements, then hammer us on social media with questions, and we'll try to respond as much as possible. We also had a question about return to the classic, regular, most common. Rockman course for August date for next year. We will probably keep it in July next year.
Here's an important comment. How do you say buoy?
Boy,
Mr. Bill,
I know who
sends you
wrote that, and that person
two buoys.
will get two buoys, two boys, two buoys. Yeah.
But going back to the question that you did you just said the original course? Is that what was the question? Sorry,
No,
I
I
cut.
think it's more the regular where you go to Flurly and do it in August. More than likely, never go back to that option. That has to do with ferry rentals and so forth.
Mhm.
I think, and race date. Rockman is not predictable, so you never know what he decides. It's up to him. What we do know is it will happen during the summertime, but one of the reasons why I want to do the race this early is also to get more daylight savings. On the other hand, we have to see how the water temperature impacts the race doing it so early.
Right. Yep.
But it's going to be harder and colder. So,
Yep.
and Rockman told us when we did this that he would not tolerate any whining about that. So, yeah, I think it was something like that, wasn't it?
Yep. Something like that. So Jamie asks, can I wear neoprene skin guards? Absolutely.
Shin guards.
Shin guards. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely
Yeah.
can. You can use that equipment, but you got to keep it with you the entire time of the race. Absolutely. Would we recommend a long sleeve jacket and trousers in case of an emergency? I would personally say no, simply because you're going to be pretty close to being able to um, get somewhere to where you can get out of the course. Unlike last year, there was a 20K segment where there was no way to get out of the course other than helicopter. So long sleeve jacket and trousers in case of emergency. Is this, I guess, Juka, I would have to ask the question, is this from a trail runner perspective? Because I don't know if a swim runner would want to carry that in their suit.
Last
If
year we
you,
required it because, yeah, it was a different course and
yeah,
we had a mandatory backpack that you could put all your equipment in. This year it's different. We're not
yeah,
requiring it. You're welcome to it if you want to figure out how to wear it. But
yeah,
you'll be
or how to
swimming.
carry it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Good. I think
Do we,
that kind of wraps it up, doesn't it?
do we
The only
carry?
thing, I think we've said it before and it's on the website. I just want to say it again, guys, in the morning for the long course, when you are loading the ferry, we'll take one bag per team over to base camp for you. Please try to limit that size to a very small backpack type carry-on duffel bag with just limited clothing that you need for after the race. We'll be transporting that over to base camp for you, but we do have limited space to do that. So
So,
that'll be as you're boarding the ferry, board the ferry with only what you're going to race in, and we'll take your small dry bag to the finish line for you.
yeah, it's like consider this: you're going on the plane, and it's only hand luggage you can carry on with you, similar type. If you bring your entire wardrobe in a, it will be back at the pier because we don't run a logistics company, unfortunately. But it should be all right. You can always talk to the people at the hotel to leave your bags there for overnight, or if you're in town, so it shouldn't be any issue.
Yep.
Yeah, we also got a question again from Chris. Lakes colder than fjord? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we covered that earlier. The temperature itself is colder. You'll feel colder in the fjord though because the swims are longer. But
Yeah.
expect the lakes to be colder than the fjord. Yes.
Yeah. Juka, just
Last,
to go back to the question that Juka had about the trousers and jacket. Yeah, that was last year's course, which is completely different. You saw it in the video, so you're good to go. I think you're fine. Sorry.
Yeah.
the last thing that I would like to say is, guys, if you're traveling with family or friends that are coming over that want to help out, we still do need some volunteers. It's a big race. It's very physically intensive. So the more people we have helping, the better. So if you have anyone that wants to help, you can have them reach out directly to me. We could use the help at and around the base camp area in the fjord, wherever, starting around like 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday and as late as they want to stay. So hit me up if you have anyone that wants to help. We're still taking volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to sum it up, we're looking forward to seeing you all in about a week's time.
Oh, we can't wait.
Yeah.
Cannot wait.
And look out for the social media postings next week, because two of us, not me, will be on the course marking all of next week. So there will be a lot of updates and a lot of live cast and shows and hints and tricks and whatnot. So
Yeah.
look forward to it. All right.
Thank
Keep
you guys
keep
for your
your eyes peeled.
time.
All right, we'll see you.